the latest monthly report of Shia Rights Watch organization highlights the activities of terrorist groups and organized actions of some governments against Shias by providing authentic documents to the public, the media, and international human rights organizations. Here, we offer you a thorough analysis of this report.
Shia Rights Watch Monthly Report. Shia Rights Watch, SRW, is a human rights organization headquartered in Washington, D.C. This organization has dedicated its efforts for protecting the rights of Shia Muslims in all over the world. Therefore, SRW documents all violations of human rights and oppressions against Shia Muslims and presents them to the international and human rights foundations and the public opinion. In its latest report, this human rights organization highlighted the acts of anti-Shiism taking place across the world in the latest month. Here comes this report. Afghanistan. Security still remains an unsolved issue for the Shia community in Afghanistan. During the time of this report, 21 Shia Afghans were killed and 8 others were injured severely when armed men raided a wedding ceremony in the town of Baghlan in the north of the country. This attack was followed by the abduction of 12 Shia Muslims by unknown armed men in the province of Ghazni. It is while Taliban terrorists have abducted and killed 4 Hazara Shia Muslims in this province in a former attack on this minority in Afghanistan. 10 children lost their lives when a suicide bomber detonated his bomb vest near a camp for displaced people near the town of Herat west of the country. 18 others were also wounded in another blast in a gas station. Jordan. Director General of Jordanian Forces discussed with Bahrain's foreign minister on security issues, while the human rights organization blamed the Jordanian government for interfering with the domestic issues of Bahrain. Bahraini protesters who demand freedom and reform are now being heavily cracked down by the Jordanian officers who have come to the aid of the Bahraini regime. Jihad al-Mohsen is now under arrest and harshly tortured after he posted topics about his desire for the Shia Islam and disclosed some information on high-level corruptions. After his resignation from the Ministry of Political Development, the Jordanian writer has faced arbitrary detentions and tortures. Bahrain. Bahraini security forces continue closing down on the Shia civilians and protesters who demand democracy and freedom in different cities and villages. These crackdowns resulted in the arrest and the injury of several protesters. Regime security forces also attacked Shia civilians and protesters at their homes in different areas and arrested people on baseless allegations. Several children were among the detainees. There are still news of torture and violations of human rights from the notorious prison of Central Jah, where protesters and Bahraini Shia civilians are sentenced to harsh and long-term imprisonments. Syria. Terrorists and extremists continue bombarding the city of Daraa in Syria. In their latest bombing, 18 civilians were harshly injured and several other people were martyred, among them innocent children and women. The 2 Shia towns of Nabil and Azara are also targeted by successive bombs launched by the terrorists. The Shias in these towns are being harshly hit since the outbreak of insurgency in Syria. Bombs also fall on 2 other Shia cities of Al-Fu'a and Kafaria on a daily basis. In these attacks, many people lost their lives, including children and women. Yemen. Security sources said that a car explosion near the mosque in the Sana'a capital resulted in the martyrdom of 3 and injury of 6 Yemenis. The Daesh terrorists also took the responsibility of another attack on a mosque in the Yemeni's capital. Saudi airstrikes also killed 10 innocent civilians, including children. Saudi aircrafts bombarded residential areas indiscriminately, which results in the martyrdom of many civilians as well as innocent children. In one single bombardment of Saudi aircrafts on a busy market, 35 civilians were martyred, many others were injured, and big damages were left. Egypt. An Egyptian Salafist figure has published an anti-Shia verdict on social media networks. In his verdict, this Salafist figure has called all Shia Muslims as infidels and death-worthy. He referred to the entire body of the Shia Muslims and encouraged his followers to kill them all. Iraq. Bomb blasts and suicide attacks by Daesh takfiris are still the most common way for targeting the Shia civilians in different cities of Iraq. During this month, the capital Baghdad has been hit by suicide and car bombs for several times, leaving dozens of men, women, and children martyred and big damages to the public property. According to security forces, 2 civilians were wounded when a car bomb went off in north of the capital, Baghdad. The sources said that the car was parked on the side of a road in the Bab al-Sham area. 6 other civilians were also killed and 21 were wounded in 3 successive car bombs. Daesh terrorist group took responsibility of these attacks. In another blast at a busy market in the Diyala town, 10 civilians lost their lives and 10 others were severely injured. Terrorist attacks by Daesh extremists in different cities of Iraq have not ceased since the outbreak of insurgency in this country.